George Washington said, "A primary object should be the education of our youth in the science of government. In a republic, what species of knowledge can be equally important? And what duty more pressing than communicating it to those who are to be the future guardians of the liberties of our country?" Today, we're going to talk a little bit about Article 2 of the United States Constitution. Let's talk about it. And welcome to another episode of The Practical Patriot. I am Marissa, your Practical Patriot of the day. So I'm glad you're joining me today, and we are going to dive right in because I have a lot of reading to do. It's going to be more reading than anything today. So sit back and put your earbuds in and enjoy a little bit of the Constitution and some Federalist Papers and a speech from President Lincoln's first inaugural address, which I think is very appropriate. I love the way he thought about his role as the president in that address. So, Article 2 of the United States Constitution starts out like this. You've probably heard it before. The executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America. He shall hold his office during the term of 4 years, and together with the Vice President chosen for the same term, be elected as follows. And then it goes on to tell about how they shall be elected, which I'm going to skip because this talk is not about elections. Let's see. We're here. Congress may determine the time of choosing the electors, blah, 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 blah. No person except a natural-born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of adoption of this Constitution shall be eligible to be for the office of the President. Neither shall any person be eligible to that office who shall not have attained the age of 35 years and been 14 years a resident within the United States. I'm skipping a little bit, okay? Before he enter on the execution of his office, he shall take the following oath or affirmation. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of the President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. We all know that's what they promise. And how often do they actually do it? That's the question for you to ponder today as I read all of these things. How are our presidents doing? All of our most recent presidents, all of the presidents in the last 100 years, how are they doing at this, right? So Section 2 says the president, so now we're getting the role of the president. What is the constitutional role of the president? The president shall be commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and the militia of the several states. When called into the actual service of the United States, he may require the opinion in writing of the principal officer in each of the executive departments upon any subject relating to the duties of their respective offices. He shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. He shall have the power by and with the advice and consent of the Senate to make treaties, provided 2/3 of the senators present concur. And he shall nominate, and by, with the advice and consent of the Senate, shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States whose appointments are not herein otherwise provided for, and which shall be established by law. But the Congress may by law vest the appointment of such inferior officers as they think proper in the President alone, in the courts of law, or in the heads of departments. The President shall have power to fill up all vacancies that may happen during the recess of the Senate by granting commissions which shall expire at the end of their next session. He shall from time to time give to the Congress information of the state of the Union and recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient. He may, on extraordinary occasions, convene both houses or either of them, and in case of a disagreement between them, with respect to the time of adjournment, he may adjourn them to such a time as he shall think proper. He shall receive ambassadors and other public ministers, and he shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. and shall commission all the officers of the United States. The President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Section 2 of the Constitution. That's it. That's the president's job. Pretty simple. Our modern presidents have really complicated things. So I'm just going to read a little bit out of Federalist Papers here. I'm going to start in 67. This is the first one that they wrote about the executive branch. So it says, the title of this one is Concerning the President, a gross attempt to misrepresent this part of the plan detected. This is very interesting. The Constitution of the Executive Department of the proposed government next claims our attention. There is hardly any part of the system, the arrangement of which could have been attended with greater difficulty, and there is perhaps none which has been inveighed against with less candor or criticized with less judgment. Here the writers against the Constitution seem to have taken pains to signalize their talent of misrepresentation. Calculating upon the aversion of the people to a monarchy, they have endeavored to enlist all of their jealousies and apprehensions in opposition to the intended President of the United States, not merely as the embryo, but as the full-grown progeny of that detested parent. To establish the pretended affinity, they have not scrupled to draw resources even from the regions of fiction. The authorities of a magistrate, in few instances greater, in some instances less than those of a governor of New York, has been magnified into more royal prerogatives. So I'm sorry if I get a little twisted when I read this sometimes. The writing is so tiny in here that I gotta have my glasses on, and sometimes I just like, what line am I on? Okay. He has been decorated with attributes, superior dignity, and splendor to those of a king of Great Britain. Now he's talking about the governor of New York at this time. He has been shown to us with the diadem, here we go, like the king of Great Britain. He has been shown to us with the diadem sparkling on his brow and the imperial purple flowing from his train. He has been seated on a throne surrounded with minions and mistresses, giving audience to the envoys of foreign potentates in all the supercilious pomp of majesty. The images of Asiatic despotism and voluptuousness have not been wanting to crown the exaggerated scene. We have been taught to tremble at the terrific visages of murdering Janizzaries and to blush at the unveiled mysteries of a future seraglio. Attempts extravagant as these to disfigure, or rather to metamorphose the object, render it necessary to take an accurate view of its real nature and form, in order to ascertain its true aspect and genuine appearance, to unmask the disingenuity, and to expose the fallacy of counterfeit resemblances which have been so insidiously as well as industrially propagated. I think it is... let's keep going. In the execution of this task, there is no man who would not find it an arduous effort either to behold with moderation or to treat with seriousness the devices, not less weak than wicked, which have been contrived to pervert the public opinion in relation to the subject. They so far exceed the usual, though unjustifiable licenses of party artifice, that even in a disposition the most candid and tolerant, they must force the sentiments which favor an indulgent construction of the conduct of political adversaries to give place to a voluntary and unreserved indignation. It is impossible not to bestow the imputation of deliberate imposture and deception upon the gross pretense of a similitude between a king of Great Britain and a magistrate of the character marked out for us as that of the President of the United States. It is still more impossible to withhold that imputation from the rash and barefaced expedients which have been employed to give success to the attempted imposition. So they were trying to make it sound like the people who were against this wanted to make it sound like he was going to be a king. And so they were trying to scare the people because the people did not want a king. So this bold experiment upon the discernment of his countrymen has been hazarded by the writer, who, whatever may be his real merit, has had no inconsiderable share of the applauses of his party, and who, upon this false and unfounded suggestion, has built a series of observations equally false and unfounded. Sounds like how I always like to say the lying liars who lie. Our people in politics, our people in media, our people in Hollywood, the lying liars who lie. They just want to lie about everything so that we believe what they tell them. Because if they repeat the lie often enough, they think we'll believe it. But that is why history is important. And we need to read it so we can get through the lies, punch through them. All right. So I am going to go on to Federalist 70. Because I just think it is so important for us to think long and hard about what our presidents are doing, and to just have that contemplation within ourselves, within our friend groups, with our politicians if they ever have town hall meetings, to ask them these questions. What is the president's job? We'll eventually go through what is the job of the Congress and stuff. You know, I love to talk about how the Congress is not doing its job. It's really not deliberating or legislating, really. They just make these acts that say, oh, this is what we want. This is the kind of project that we want all of the bureaucrats to put on for us. So here's our suggestion. Go ahead and do it. That is not how it's supposed to work. We want our legislators to do the actual legislating, because that is what we send them there for, and that's what we pay them to do. So, Federalist 70 says this. The same view continued, talking about the executive branch, continued in relation to the unity of the executive and with an examination of the project of an executive council. This is also very interesting. It makes you think about who the president surrounds himself with. It makes you think about bureaucracy and how, if they're all of the same mind, how that can be not very good sometimes. And that'll go right along with something interesting that Abraham Lincoln said. So there is an idea, which is not without its advocates, that a vigorous executive is inconsistent with the genius of Republican government. The enlightened well-wishers of this species of government must at least hope in the supposition that the supposition is destitute of foundation, since they can never admit its truth without, at the same time, admitting the condemnation of their own principles. Energy in the executive is a leading character in the definition of good government. It is essential to the protection of the community. All right, here we're back. I ran out of space in my phone. I had to delete some stuff. My kids play on my phone a lot. And well, those of you who watch my YouTube channel know I've got 4 kids. So there's lots of gaming happening on my phone all the time. So I had to delete some games. And a couple of these old videos, which I hadn't deleted yet. Whoops. Okay, so where am I? Energy in the executive is a leading character in the definition of good government. It is essential to the protection of the community against foreign attacks. It is not less essential to the steady administration of the laws, to the protection of property against those irregular and high-handed combinations which sometimes interrupt the ordinary course of justice, to the security of liberty against the enterprises and assaults of ambition, faction, and of anarchy. Every man, the least conversant in Roman story, knows how often that republic was obliged to make refuge in the absolute power of a single man under the formidable title of dictator, as well as against the intrigues of ambitious individuals who aspire to the tyranny and the seditions of whole classes of the community whose conduct threatened the existence of all government, as against the invasions of external enemies who menaced the conquest and destruction of Rome. There can be no need, however, to multiply arguments or examples on this head. A feeble executive implies a feeble execution of government. A feeble execution is but another phrase for a bad execution. And a government ill executed, whatever it may be in theory, must be in practice a bad government. Need I say more? I think we can all think of our current example of feebleness in government and what is happening because of that feebleness in government. Taking it for granted, therefore, that all men of sense will agree in the necessity of an energetic executive, it will only remain to inquire, what are the ingredients which constitute this energy? How far can they be combined with those other ingredients which constitute safety in the Republican sense? And how far does this combination characterize the plan which has been reported by the convention? The ingredients which constitute energy in the executive are unity, duration, and adequate provision for its support, competent powers. The ingredients which constitute safety in the Republican sense are a due dependence on the people, a due responsibility. Do I need to read that again? The ingredients which constitute safety in the Republican sense are a due dependence on the people. And what has been happening in our government? The people are putting all of their dependence on the government instead. Because it, unfortunately, those of us who are on the right side of things, the conservative side of things, have not been as active as maybe we should have been. Well, not as maybe we should have been, but as we should have been. Because look at what has happened to my generation even. There's a lot of people my age who are like, yay, Bernie Sanders, go socialism. And I'm like, what? How old are you? How can you think that this is okay? When did we decide that we would abdicate our power as the people to the government and just let them do everything for us? But that's the way it is. I look at my brother. I have two brothers. They're in both, one is in their early 20s and one is in their early 30s. And I look at them and I look at the people that they are around, and I look at the people who are rioting in the streets and the people who are saying, government, gimme, 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 free stuff, free stuff, free stuff. No. We must re-educate to say what is constitutional. Be responsible for yourself and don't rely on the government, because it's not their job to take care of you. It's your job to take care of yourself. Quite the novel concept. Personal responsibility. Sometimes a lost art. Come on, parents, we got to teach our children better. All right, where was I? Sorry, I got distracted. Now I got to find my spot in this tiny writing. Which column was I in? This one. Okay. The politicians and statesmen who have been the most celebrated for their soundness of their principles and for the justness of their views have declared in favor of a single executive and a numerous legislature. They have with great propriety considered energy as the most necessary qualification of the former, and have regarded this as most applicable to power in a single hand, while they have with equal propriety considered the latter as best adapted to deliberation and wisdom, and best calculated to conciliate the confidence of the people and to secure their privileges and interests. To what? Deliberate with wisdom? What a novel concept. I said that just a second ago. That's my phrase of the day. What a novel idea. Wisdom and deliberation. Let's bring that back to government, people. That is practical. That unity is conducive to energy. Will not be disputed. Decision, activity, secrecy, and dispatch will generally characterize the proceedings of one man in a much more eminent degree than the proceedings of any greater number. And in proportion as the number is increased, these qualities will be diminished. We wish it was that way. There's so many corrupt people in politics now that it's like a whole bunch of little tiny different corrupt things. This unity may be destroyed in two ways. Either by vesting the power in two or more magistrates, of equal dignity and authority, or by vesting it ostensibly in one man, subject in whole or in part to the control and the cooperation of others. What does that sound like? In the capacity of counselors to him. So that is what happens in our modern day government, isn't it? Yes, because the legislature has abdicated their responsibility to the executive in so many instances and the executive branch has no patience, which we're going to talk about in a second. So I'm pulling up my computer here. For example, our Joe Biden, our President Biden, currently the occupant in the White House, has signed, according to the Federal Register, as of yesterday, it says in 2021, Joe Biden published 38 executive orders just since he's been inaugurated. 38. The last one they have written on here was the first. It was signed on the 1st of April. It was published on the 7th. His most recent one that's on here. But 38. That was the average for a year in President Trump's presidency and in President Obama's presidency. Their average was about 35 to 38 a year, not 38 in the first 4 months. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So let's read that part again, okay? This unity may be destroyed in two ways, either by vesting the power in two or more magistrates of equal dignity and authority, or by vesting it ostensibly in one man, subject in whole or in part to the control or cooperation of others in the capacity of counselors to him. So he's talking about that this is not good. About how it may be destroyed is what he's saying. Can you tell me, read this? I spilled coffee all over it. One of the first, the two councils of Rome may serve as an example. Of the last, we shall find examples in the constitutions of several of the states. New York and New Jersey, if I recollect right, are the only states which have entrusted the executive authority wholly to single men. Both of these methods of destroying the unity of the executive have their partisans, but the votaries of an executive council are the most numerous. They are both liable, if not to equal similar objections, and may not in most lights be examined in conjunction. Okay. I am going to stop reading that there because that's kind of what I wanted to talk about in that. So we're going to read from President Lincoln's first inaugural address, which was given March 4th, 1861. And here we go. This is from halfway through the speech. This is where he starts talking about the government, because he was elected when there was talk of secession, which there currently still is. I still hear that on the news. People talking about wanting to secede and having the Republican states all come together, and then the coastal states, which are more liberal, join with Canada or whatever they say. I just don't know if that's a good idea. I think we should try to preserve the Union. That's what the whole Civil War was fought for, to keep the Union together and to free the slaves. The most important part, of course, but also to keep the Union together. So, here it is. This country, with its institutions, belongs to the people who inhabit it. Whenever they shall grow weary of the existing government, they can exercise their constitutional right of amending it, or their revolutionary right to dismember or overthrow it. I cannot be ignorant of the fact that many worthy and patriotic citizens are desiring of having the national constitution amended. While I make no recommendations of the amendments, what's the president doing? Not recommending things. While I make no recommendation of amendments, I fully recognize the authority of the people over the whole subject, to be exercised in either of the modes prescribed in the instrument itself, and I should, under existing circumstances, favor rather than oppose an opportunity being afforded the people to act upon it. So President Lincoln was doing what he was saying he would do, what the president should do in that moment, which is let the people decide what they're going to do. I will venture to add that to me, the convention mode seems more preferable in that it allows amendments to originate with the people themselves instead of only permitting them to take or reject propositions originated by others, not especially chosen for that purpose, which might not be precisely such as they would wish to either accept or refuse. I understand a proposed amendment to the Constitution, which amendment, however, I have not seen, has passed Congress to the effect that the federal government shall neither interfere with the domestic institutions of the states, including that of persons held to service. To avoid misconstruction of what I have said, I depart from my purpose not to speak of particular amendments so far as to say that, holding such a provision now to be implied constitutional law, I have no objection to its being made express and irrevocable. The chief magistrate derives all of his authority from the people, and they have referred none upon him to fix terms for the separation of the states. The people themselves can do this if also they choose, but the executive as such has nothing to do with it. His duty is to administer the present government as it came into his hands and to transmit it unimpaired by him to his successor. Isn't that great? Because what did the Constitution say that the president's job is? To faithfully execute the laws of the Constitution, right? The president, the executive branch, is to uphold the law, right? The legislative branch makes the law. The president upholds the law. The judicial system interprets the law. It's such a simple system that we can get back to if we would just have a backbone and start dismantling the bureaucracy. How hard would it be? I mean, it would take a very long time, and we'd probably have to have an army of people to do it. But what about taking all of the laws of the United States one by one, reading them fully, and seeing if they're actually being followed? And if they aren't, either follow them or get rid of them. Wouldn't that be a great thing? And find out which laws are unconstitutional, really unconstitutional, and what parts of our government need to be done away with, so that we can get back to a simple form of government where the people are free to live as they choose, with as long as they're not hurting other people, right? Right. So why should there not be a patient confidence, right? So the sentence before that was the people themselves can do this if they choose, but the executive has nothing to do with it. His duty is to administer the present government as it came into his hands and transmit it unimpaired by him to his successor. Why should there not be a patient confidence in the ultimate justice of the people? Is there any better or equal hope in the world? In our present differences, is either party without faith of being in the right? If the almighty ruler of nations, with his eternal truth and justice, be on your side of the north, or on yours of the south, that truth, that justice will surely prevail by the judgment of this great tribunal of the American people. By the frame of government under which we live, this same principle have wisely given their public servants but little power for mischief, and have with equal wisdom provided for the return of that little to their own hands at very short intervals. I wish that was still true. We can make it true again. We just have to pay attention to what our legislators are doing and hold them accountable. I've said that before. Accountability is key. It is key. We have to hold everyone accountable at every level of government. The power is in our hands. It's in ours. And if we sit and do nothing, then we should have nothing to say. While the people retain their virtue and vigilance, no administration by any extreme of wickedness or folly can very seriously injure the government in the short space of 4 years. I wish that was still true. There are wicked governments, and they can do bad things in 4 years. Look at what has happened currently in the first 4 months of this presidency. Look at what is happening already. Chaos and disorder and division. Let us retain our virtue and be vigilant so that no administration by any extreme wickedness or folly can seriously injure the government. That's on us. We have to maintain our virtue and be vigilant and elect people who are also virtuous and vigilant to the Constitution and not to greed. You know, that's a big problem in America. Talked about that way back at the beginning. What do we do? You know, only a virtuous people are capable of being free. And we talked about all those definitions of virtue and how we as human beings are out for self-preservation. And greed is a part of that. And that's what the problem in our government is. Greed, 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 money, money, money. The love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. My countrymen, one and all, think calmly and well upon this whole subject. Nothing valuable can be lost by taking time. That's the other thing we're lacking in government is patience. Because if we weren't in such a hurry to pass 38 executive orders to try and change government as fast as possible, because we know that it won't last for very long, because radical ideas aren't going to win in this country, because the rest of us are rational, not radical. Think calmly and well. Nothing valuable can be lost by taking time. One more time. I'm going to read it one more time. Nothing valuable can be lost by taking our time. If there be an object to hurry any of you in hot haste to a step which you would never take deliberately, that object will be frustrated by taking time. But no good object can be frustrated by it. Such of you as are now dissatisfied will still have the old Constitution unimpaired, and on the sensitive point, the laws of your own framing under it, while the new administration will have no immediate power, if it would, to change either. If it were admitted to you who are dissatisfied hold the right side in the dispute, there is still no single good reason to precipitate action. Intelligence, patriotism, Christianity, and a firm reliance on Him, capital H, who has never yet forsaken this favored land, are still competent to adjust in the best way all our present difficulty. In your hands, my dissatisfied fellow countrymen, and not in mine, is the momentous issue of civil war. The government will not assail you. You can have no conflict without being yourselves the aggressors. You have no oath registered in heaven to destroy the government, while I shall have the most solemn one to preserve, protect, and defend it. I am loath to close. We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic cords of memory stretching from every battlefield and patriot grave to every living heart and hearthstone all over this broad land will yet swell the chorus of the Union when again touched, as surely they will be by the better angels of our nature. Amazing. Well said, Abraham Lincoln. So I won't read the second inaugural address today, although it is great. Oh, maybe I will. No. All right, I'm back. That was Amy from the Dealer Services Center. Is anyone else tired of getting those phone calls? Saying, oh, your car warranty. No, my car warranty is through the dealership. Thanks. Anyway, think about that. Think about what the role of the president is. Should our presidents be making so many executive orders to try and control everything that happens in our country? No. They're responsible for keeping our borders safe, for our military, for our militia, for executing the laws of the nation. And really quick, just to end on this high note, and to dispel some lies from the lying liars who lie that we hear all of the time in the government. Let me see. This is from President Trump's presidency. And see, he even did a lot of executive orders that I don't always agree with, because it's not the president's job to fix all the stuff in the country. That's the legislative branch's job, and they don't do it. So here it is. In June of 2018, June of 2018, the president signed an executive order number 13841, affording Congress an opportunity to address family separation. Here's what it said. So we're just dispelling some lies about how President Trump didn't care about family separation. That's a lie. So here's what he signed on June 20th, 2018. By the authority vested in me by the President, by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, including the Immigration and Nationality Act, it is hereby ordered as follows. It is the policy of this administration to rigorously enforce our immigration laws. That's his job. Good job, President Trump. Is our current president doing that? Under our laws, the only legal way for an alien to enter this country is at a designated port of entry at an appropriate time. When an alien enters or attempts to enter the country anywhere else, that alien has committed at least the crime of improper entry and is subject to a fine or imprisonment under Section 1325A of Title 8 of the United States Code. This administration will initiate proceedings to enforce this and other criminal provisions of the NIA until and unless Congress directs otherwise. It is also the policy of this administration to maintain family unity, including by detaining alien families together where appropriate and consistent with law and available resources. It is unfortunate that Congress's failure to act and court orders have put the administration in the position of separating alien families to effectively enforce the law. For purposes of this order, the following definitions apply. Alien family means any person not a citizen or national of the United States who has not been admitted into or is not authorized to enter or remain in the United States, who has entered this country with an alien child or alien children at or between designated ports of entry, and who was detained, and that person's alien child or alien children. So, there you go. Temporary detention policy for families. Okay, this is still from 2018. Don't let them lie to you. The Secretary of Homeland Security shall, to the extent permitted by law and subject to the availability of appropriations, maintain custody of alien families during the pendency of any criminal improper entry or immigration proceedings involving their members. The Secretary shall not, however, detain an alien family together when there is a concern that detention of an alien child with the alien child's parents would pose a risk to the child's welfare. The Secretary of Defense shall take all legally available measures to provide the Secretary upon request any existing facilities available for the housing and care of alien families, and shall construct such facilities if necessary and be consistent with the law. The Secretary, to the extent permitted by law, shall be responsible for reimbursement of the use of these facilities. Blah, blah, blah. Same thing. So it was their intent to keep families together, just as our current administration says they want to do. But right now it's not families who are coming in. Most of the time it's just children. Oh, my heart. Watching all those children being dropped over walls and 12-year-olds crying. It's a tragedy that's happening. And it is the Biden administration's fault. It is their fault, and they better stop it real quick. They better finish that wall and start enforcing the law is what they need to do. So, Let's keep educating ourselves. Let's think about what the role of the president is. Read some history, read your Constitution, think about it, be rational, think logically, all of those things that are important to the survival of our nation. And think about how we can put virtue back into government. All practical things. Have a great day. I'll see you next time. Be blessed and stay free.
Thanks for watching The Practical Patriot. Like and subscribe below.
That's right.